Yeah, my name is Saluskin. I'm the Elum Fish Passage Biologist, is my official title. And I want to ask Chuck Carl to come up here with me. He's our one of our techs that's been hands-on with this project since day one. So I brought Chuck along, and he's going to talk on a couple of the slides that I've got going. Before I have a presentation, I just like to give thanks and acknowledge our Lord and Creator Jesus Christ for the success of my project, for the fish, and for the opportunity to present today. With that, we'll start. My official position is funded by the Bureau of Reclamation. Our Sockeye Reintroduction is funded through a grant that we get through Columbia River Fish Commission, or CRITFIC. We utilize the WDF&W for our transport permits, and Grant County, we use their adult fish trap after you strap it down. Before crib dams in the early 1900s, late 1800s, these three lakes, Ketchlis, Ketchis, and Elum, supported over 200,000 sockeye, adult sockeye. You can kind of see up where we're located, central Washington. Elum Dam is kind of our focus right now. Elum Dam, it's the hardest dam to pass, but it has the most potential. There's 41 miles of pristine alpine wilderness habitat above Elum Dam that's not going to be developed or bothered in any way. So the fish haven't been able to get to this dam in over 100 years, or past this dam in over 100 years, and access that habitat. These crib dams went in, like I said, in the early 1900s. This is kind of what a crib dam looks like. This is not the specific one at Elum. Later on, Bureau of Reclamation came in and constructed permanent facilities at all the reservoir glacier lakes within the Yakima Basin. Those three lakes that I showed you, those are just three of the lakes. There's 5 total in the Yakima Basin. The other 2 are Bumping and Rimrock. And actually, we're working on fish passage now at Elum, and Rimrock will be the next one. I think that's on the list for fish passage. Part of our agreement with the Bureau of Reclamation was for them to provide temporary juvenile downstream passage on the spillway at Lake Elum. The problem with this spillway is that the lake has to reach a certain elevation for the water to spill over the dam. So it's all dependent on snowpack, carryover from the previous year, because these are reservoir dams, so they get drawn down every year. So there's a lot of kind of negative aspects to this. This is why this is not a long-term fix. It's just, it's not feasible for long-term, because it's all dependent on when the lake fills. And I know a lot of you that work in hatchery systems know that these fish need to leave, at a specific time, and when they can't leave, they won't. They'll just stay in the lake end of the year, and we've experienced that. And I'm going through these first part of the slides, and this is just kind of what we have to deal with within the basin. In 1920, some of the local kind of gaming commissions thought it would be a good idea to introduce Mackinac from Lake Wisconsin into Ketchlis, Ketchis, and Lake Elum. And Lake Elum got a double dose of the Mackinac, and that's the only lake they took in. And we got some pretty robust bull trout populations in Ketchlis and Ketchis, kokanee also, but we don't have any of that in Lake Elum, so you can kind of do the math on that one. Here's another problem we're dealing with within the basin. This is the confluence. Yakima goes into the Columbia River. You can see down, or kind of the route of the water has to go up and around the island, to get into the Columbia, and our returning fish have to go around, and out migrating smolts go around, where the natural flow is down here, and somebody built a dike down here, and they put a little marina there, and it's been there for quite some time. And so we're in the process, the Yakima Nation is in the process of trying to get this dike removed. Again, it's a uphill battle because you got the marina there and some yacht club has taken ownership of it. So, so this is just another situation we're dealing with in the Yakima. There was, the last talk with Ryan, he talked about 2015. We had a drought year and the whole Columbia Basin was affected. We have this water stargrass that feeds or that is produced when you have low water years and high temperatures. And this particular 2015, it usually, it's produced along the margins, but this particular year, it went clear across the river. And it blocked migration of not only sockeye, but other species of fish. And this is just a photo of the lower basin. This is what the Yakima River looks like. The fish, all the fish have to swim through this kind of an arid desert climate. There's not a lot of canopy cover over the river there. So, when you got low water years or drought year, it has adverse effects on what we're doing, what we're trying to do with our reintroduction. And this is what the stargrass looked like. And we had crews that had to go down there and literally pull it out, like pulling weeds. They had to reach down in the water, pull it out, and they put it all up on these platforms just to get them out. As soon as they did this, our fish started migrating again. We started getting counts at Prosser Dam. And these are the circumstances that we're working with. We had no fish to begin with. There was no fish passage past any of the reservoir dams, and then we had limited downstream passage. No marine-driven nutrients for over 100 years. Untouched substrate. Then we had to introduce apex predator. And then climate change and funding. Like I said, I'm on unlimited funding through the Bureau of Reclamation, and then our reintroduction works out on a grant. It's funded by a grant every year. With that, I'll let Chuck take over these next two slides.
Hello, we've got a couple fish trucks we have. This one truck we have on the left is 2,100 gallons. It's got 3 departments. We usually haul 300 fish a trip. There, when we first started, we didn't know what we were going to haul. We hauled anything from 100 fish to 400, and then we had some mortality and said, well, we can't do that. We kept dropping back. We figured out it was a really good deal. And the one on the right is 2,400 gallons. We haul 350 a trip on it. And when we're going hard and when the run's going really well, we can usually get 2 trips a day. Our trips are 94 miles one way, so we've got, in the 2,400 gallon truck, we have 12 air stones and 3 aerators. In the truck on the left, we have 8 air stones and 3 aerators. So we've got a lot, and then the truck on the 2,400 gallon one has a recirculation pump also. The Mackinac removal. We started with nets. We were putting them out in the old native way, in the back of a boat or front of a boat and pulling through and just trying to get the Mackinac any way we could. Our gill nets were used nets from fishermen from the tribe and stuff like that. Here's some of the ones we've caught. They were all the way up to like 22 pounds, 23 pound Mackinacs. They were huge. It was cool that we got to get some of these out. There's our numbers on the left that we removed. 2013 is 150, 2014 258, 2015 208, and 2016 we kind of had a down year. We started off really good. The first week we got 88, and then the water temperature dropped in the lake, so I think the fish moved back out in the deeper waters, so they never came to where they were spawning naturally. And we also have some spawning derbies. Oh, that slide right there was a fish from the spawning derby that was inside of a Mackinac. It was a little fry. It was like 5 inches long. But we have a Mackinac derby. We had it for a couple, 3 years. We did really good at it. We removed 112 Mackinac out of the lake and did really well. this is where we start here at Priest Rapids Dam, and there's where we end up. We've got to go all the way along the river and cut across. It's like 94 miles, I was saying. So it's really, I usually stop twice every trip to make sure the water temperature's good and the air stones are working and the aerators are right. But it's just then we usually stop at the end of the run and make sure people aren't out there trying to look for fish and make sure that they aren't. We drop them off at a private beach, but I don't do that good because there's people that come down on the beach all the time that are walking along shore and just guys hang out there about 15 minutes and look for morts and make sure everything's flowing good. Thank you.
I guess another thing to mention, you know, this, like Chuck was saying, this is basically, it's a 2-hour ride in a fish truck, and this is late June, early part of July, so the temperatures, you know, you're getting close to 100 degrees on some of those days down at Priest Rapids Dams. Our reintroduction, every year, well, again, this is a straight adult reintroduction. There's no hatchery process involved. Because there's no fish passage at Lake Elum, we put the adults in the lake and there's no way they can get out. We have the flume, that's turned off by the Bureau of Reclamation, so the adults can't utilize that. So basically they're stuck in a lake and they want to survive, they have to go up and spawn, and that's what they do. 2 donor stocks are used, Lake Wenatchee and Lake Osoyoos, or the Canada stock, the one Brian was presenting on. That's basically it's an 80-20 split. 80% of those sockeye are headed for Canada, back to the work that the Okanagan Nation Alliance is doing up there. We receive our transport permits again from WDF&W. We contact a local landowner to utilize his property, and all we have a 5-man crew. They have to go through the security process to access the Grand County PUD trap at Priest Rapids Dam. And 2009 was our initial reintroduction. We had a celebration to commemorate that event. We had everybody that was involved within our project, from the Bureau of Reclamation, NOAA, GRIPFIC. We had all these guys come in and do a talk. We had keynote speakers. We had representatives from our youth dance group. Growing up as a tribal member, I did a lot of the dances. For my people, the bear dance, eagle dance, snake dance, and then we also did a welcome dance. And I thought, you know, it'd be cool if we could do a welcome dance and then, you know, welcome the Sockeye back to, you know, this area that they haven't been in over 100 years. And that was one of the reasons we had the young dance group come in. After escapement goals on the Columbia River reaches 80,000, then we can begin our collection. Our take is, again, this is just an enhancement project. So the minimum amount we can take is 1,000. The max amount is 10,000. The brood deer, you can see the brood deer on the left there. Those are then they got the Bonneville dam count numbers for that specific year, and then our trap and all the Lake Elum. And then on the far right is what we're seeing in returns back to the basin as far as our reintroduction. Again, this is a system that hasn't seen any sockeye in over 100 years. We take genetics off of all of the species that we collect, just because, you know, we want to see which one is succeeding in our project, whether it's Wenatchee or Okanagan or Soyuz, excuse me. We take those at Priest Rapids Dam on a spawning ground as carcass surveys. The small migration, we have collection facilities at Rosa Dam, and we have a juvenile collection facility at Chandler Dam and Prosser, and the returnees back to the Yakima Basin. And then we, you know, like I said, we can monitor the out migration. The funny thing is, when we're trying to run these facilities, it's during the spring months, and so you got large amounts of water and freshets going out, and sometimes we have to close these facilities down because of flooding and other things. And so, you know, these are the real numbers that we're getting, but those facilities aren't running all the time, and like I said, they're shut down. And so, you know, we do an expanded count on some of those estimates, or those real numbers. And then, of course, 2013, you know, we had another ceremony. You know, we like to party and, you know, have those kind of things. You know, big dinner. And we have, you know, this is the crew that all worked on the project. We had representatives from the O&A. They come up and spoke at this event. A lot of the dignitaries came in, the government dignitary came in, and they talked during this time, and it was widely covered by a lot of the press, and a lot of the TV channels and stuff came over from Seattle. It was an awesome time, good event. And, you know, it's a big deal, you know, for our tribe to see this happening. And here are some of our outcomes. Again, it's a straight adult reproduction. We figured out how to transport them successfully without any warts out of the truck. Again, the adults are using a pristine habitat that they haven't seen or used in over 100 years. We're able to get smolts out, reduce Mackinac, monitor out migration, and then again, my official title is Elum Fish Passage Biologist, and that's what we're working towards, is getting, you know, fish passage, and we had a groundbreaking ceremony on the fish passage at Lake Elum 2 years ago now, and they're still working on the facility, and it won't be completed, and for another couple of years. It's all dependent on the funding they get every year to do part of this project, and you know, this is, you know, $1 million, you know, like almost over $80 million dollar facility that we're building. And everybody talks about the price tag and how much it's costing to build this, but again, this is a resource that's been missing from our people for over 100 years, and you know that that doesn't even match up as far as the price tag is concerned over that amount of time. So down low you have the intake gates, the juvenile fish passage ramp, and see, because of the gates, as the lake fills, you know, the juveniles can leave at a sooner time when they want to leave. And so they'll go, and we have this helix structure that they're using, and then there's an outlet down by the collection adult facility. And the reason you have a collection adult facility is because, again, this is a drawdown, kind of a bathtub effect. And so when the lake draws down, the water draws down away from the dam. So there's no way, you know, you can't put a fish ladder at the dam, and that wouldn't work because there's no water at the dam most time of the year. So, and this is actually a real photo of Lake Elum Dam, and you can see how the water does draw down away from the dam, and the helix part and the juvenile bypass tunnel. Don't get to acknowledge anybody, I guess. Yeah, I understand. Yeah, this is the credits. And Dave Fast, he's our senior research scientist. He works on the policy. Mark Johnston is my direct supervisor. Emily Washington's public relations. Joe and Wendy with the Bureau. Andrew Matala, he's going to be presenting next on our genetics. And then Peter Gilbert, he's the one that's helped funding. He's the one that gets Peter the money to run the samples, and so he's our money guy. He's in the crowd too. So acknowledge Peter. And yeah, with that, we'll take any questions.